What's up, YouTube? My name is Isaiah Rivera. I have a world record 50.5-inch running vertical jump, and today I'm going to be answering your vertical jump questions. The first one being, I have 7 out of 10 pain just below the patellar tendon on the bone. What should I do? But before I get into that, I just really quickly want to say that if you want to get coached by me personally to jump higher, go to THPstrength.com. My guarantee is that if you don't increase at least 3 inches of vertical in 6 months, I will coach you for free until you do. For right now, it's a limited price of $99 a month before we massively increase the price when it becomes too much to handle. So if you want to lock that price in, go sign up right now. Without further ado, let's answer this first question. First, I'm going to tell you a story about my knee pain. Right now, I'm 26 years old. I've been training since I was around 14, 15 years old. And when I was 14 years old, I started getting knee pain at the exact spot that you started getting knee pain, which is right here. This is called the tibial tuberosity, the little side angle right there. You can see that this bone sticks out. That is where the patellar tendon attaches distally on the bone. It attaches in 2 spots, which is right below the patella, which is your kneecap, and then it attaches at the tibial tuberosity, which is the very top of your shin. This is most typically known as Osgood-Schlatters disease, but it is just a form of patellar tendinopathy. Whether you have it at the inferior pole of the patellar or at the tibial tuberosity, does not matter. They are going to be treated the same way. The problem with this one is that it is going, with the distal point of the patellar tendon, is that it's going to be more provocative with activities that put the tendon in compression. Think of compression as the tendon just folding over the bone, and you're at max compression when you go into full flexion. Now, you said you are at a 7 out of 10 pain. The very first thing that you have to prioritize when it comes to basically any injury is you want to manage the symptoms, and you want to get that pain under control and down to a point where you can handle day-to-day activities and just have that managed. That way we can start training and loading that tendon up. So the first thing you want to do is you want to figure out what is bothering it, right? What's making the pain feel worse? And to do that, the best way to go about it is to start tracking your pain. So every morning, I want you to do something that is provocative for the tendon. This can be walking up and down the stairs. It can be doing a body weight squat. It can be a single leg half squat. It can be getting out from, it can be getting up from your bed. Whatever it is, choose something that's provocative and then grade it 1 out of 10. You're gonna go in your notes app, and every single morning you're gonna note what it is, 1 out of 10. Do it at the same exact time every day and do the exact same test every single day. For me, I do it as soon as I wake up. It's the very first thing that I do when I get out of bed in the morning. Next thing is you're gonna start doing isometrics. The best isometric for distal patellar tendinopathy is gonna be a leg extension isometric. Let me get a kettlebell here real quick. Very easy way to do so is to buy one of these bad boys right here. This is a 30-pound kettlebell. For athletes that have really bad knee pain, I usually like to start them at around 15 pounds. And then you're literally just gonna put that around your foot, and then you're gonna just hold it right there. You know you're at a good weight and knee angle if you feel about a 3 or 4, sometimes even up to a 5 out of 10 pain. And then when you hold it for 30 to 45 seconds, there is an instant decrease in your knee pain. That's how you know you're at the right weight and intensity. You're gonna do that for 3 to 5 sets every 6 hours for a total of 10 to 15 sets for the whole day. All right, you're gonna rest 1 to 2 minutes in between each set, and you are going to do that every day until your morning pain test gets down to about a 3 out of 10. Once it gets down to about a 3 out of 10, we're gonna use a good old squat rack and a barbell, and we're gonna do quarter or half squats, starting with just the bar. You're gonna do 4 sets of 6 to 8 reps every other day. Add 10 to 20 pounds every single workout until you are able to do probably around half of what your all-time squat max is. Once you're at that point, you're gonna slowly bleed in elastic work through doing depth drops, get to the point where you can handle doing whatever your max vertical is, and then slowly ramp up the elastic work over time, increasing volume and intensity over time until you're able to get back to what your activity is, your regular activity levels. So that's kind of the broad overview of the tendon rehab process. You can do the same process for your Achilles tendon. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, if you want me to help you directly with this process, a lot of athletes are not disciplined enough and do not know their bodies well enough to do this by themselves. So if you want me to help you directly with this, again, go to THPstrength.com and we'll help you out. We're actually way, way, way better at this than even increasing verticals if it is tendon pain. There are other types of knee pain, such as PFP pain. There can be ligament issues, meniscus issues, and you're gonna treat those completely differently. So first, make sure that it is tendinopathy, and then that process is going to work for you. So hopefully that helps you out. It's something that I wish I had as a resource when I was 14. It would have prevented years and years of pain and depression. And I would probably, as crazy it is to imagine, I probably would be even better, where I would have gotten to where I'm at even sooner if I had that. So this is the problem that basically every jumping athlete is gonna deal with at some point in their careers. So that's hopeful. Like the damn video right now. And if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, give it a 5-star. By the way, if you didn't know, we do release these episodes, not just the Q&As, we also do podcasts every single day on Apple and Spotify. Just search up THPstrength on there and it'll pop up. Second question, should I do plyos before, between, or after leg days? It depends. Generally, in a training day, or even a smaller unit of time, a training workout, you want to do the more explosive, intense, more specific training earlier, and then the more general, less intense, more isolated exercise movements later in the training day. You can also do plyometrics on different days from your weights. Usually you would want to do that. If you're going to do back-to-back days, you would do the first day as an elastic day and the second day as the strength work focused day. So that's kind of how you should plan that out. Next question is, do I do any sprinting in my workouts? I actually haven't done sprinting in my training for probably about 2 years now. It is something that we are thinking about implementing back, just for a variety and to have a new stimulus that I could adapt to. But it is something that is very effective in increasing your vertical jump. It's categorized as a plyometric activity because it has a stretch shortening cycle in there. If you don't know what a stretch shortening cycle is, it's when your muscle goes under an eccentric muscle contraction, an isometric muscle contraction, and a concentric muscle contraction in a very short amount of time. And the rapid eccentric loading of your muscles will augment force production during the concentric phase. If you don't know what eccentric, isometric, and concentric is, eccentric is when your muscle lengthens under tension. Isometric is when your muscle contraction is when your muscle does not change in length under muscle tension. And then a concentric muscle action is when the muscle shortens when it's under tension. All right. So I forgot why I was even saying that. Oh yeah, sprinting. Sprinting is it's the fastest type of stretch shortening cycle that you can experience. Again, training effects are specific. So the plyometric that is going to be the most specific for jumping higher is going to be actually just jumping, because the ground contact times are going to be the same, right? It's jumping. But the reason we do things that are on different points in the force velocity curve is for variety. Variety is needed to have adaptation, which is the whole point of exercise, is to have your body adapt. So we do want to surf other points in the force velocity curve, and it's why we do extensive plyos or intensive plyos or full range of motion squatting or half squats or quarter squats, right? We want to hit all those points, and all those things are going to have be positive stimuli for adaptation to jump higher. Okay. My knees crack a lot, but they don't hurt. Is that bad? No. If your knees are popping and cracking, but it's not hurting and it's not something that I would worry about, I would avoid doing it habitually. Sometimes athletes get in the habit of testing their knee pain constantly and cracking their knees. I have a rule. Aside from your morning pain test and from your actual training, do not think about your pain. Don't test your pain. completely forget about it. Just live your life, right? Use it as a mental test. Next question. On the first stage of periodization, is training power necessary? First, let's define what periodization is. Periodization is planning training so that you can peak your performance at a specific time of the year, okay? So another benefit of periodization, it allows you to make long-term progress while minimizing plateaus, and you can keep progressing for as long as possible, and it allows you to reach your athletic potential versus when training isn't periodized. Now, power training, we also have to define that. To define power, the physics term is power is force times velocity. It's also known as work over time. A better definition for jump performance itself is actually impulse. I know this is super physics heavy. I won't go into the details of that, but if you want to know more about it, just look up impulse, what it is in physics terms, and that is literally jumping. Jumping high is impulse. The greater your impulse, the higher you're going to jump. So the reason we want to focus on power, a way I like to define it is just rate of force development. You have force, which is mass times acceleration, but in any athletic movement, there's going to be a constraint of time. So you have to hit a peak force within the given constraint of time. So you might have an athlete that can generate a ton of force, but they might not generate as much force within the time constraint as a more capable athlete. And the whole reason we do power work is to improve your explosive strength. Explosive strength is just how much of your force under ideal conditions can you tap into. Now, during traditional block periodization, you only focus on max strength, then you only focus on power, then you might only focus on just jumping and plyometrics and not do anything else. At THP, we use a special type of periodization. It's called long conjugate sequence periodization. Long meaning that we focus on the specific variables we're going to focus on for 3 to 4 weeks. Sequence meaning that there's going to be an emphasis of 1 or 2 variables at a time in sequence. Usually that'll be strength, power, elasticity is the basic way to define it. But it's going to be things that we surf on the force velocity curve. Each of those variables, we focus on them one at a time. And then conjugate, meaning we're going to focus on multiple variables at the same time with more focus on 1 or 2 of them and then decreased focus on the rest of them. So with power work, we're going to be doing power work all year long. It's just that the emphasis we place on it is going to differ. So we might have extra emphasis on max strength work and then less emphasis on power work. Or during our later cycle, it might be more emphasis on power work, but we're still going to be hitting that max strength work. So the best way, and the reason we do this is because it allows us to retain those other qualities while increasing those other qualities. So we're always going to be doing power work. It's just with different focuses. But we're not going to be doing everything all at once in the same amounts because you're going to get hurt. So always keep it in. How do I dunk the ball harder? So first, what does dunking the ball hard even mean, right? It's basically the same thing as jumping high. You want to generate a ton of force in a short period of time, and that's going to be dunking the ball harder. Now, what muscles are going to be generating force to dunk the ball harder? Well, you got to think the motion of dunking is like this, right? To dunk the ball harder, we want to have a ton of momentum going into it, right? It's impulse. So you want to be generating force over a long period of time from here to here. You're going to generate more force in a short period of time by going here to here than it is from here to here. So what muscles are going to be used when you go from here to here? All right, I'm going to be using my shoulder, all right, to rotate here. From the top to the bottom of the motion, I'm going to be using a lot of lats, a lot of chest as well. So now we got your muscles there. And then from here to here, you're also going to be using traps and back. So you're going to use the same training principles that you do for your legs as you do for your arms. So you got to train your shoulders, your upper back, your traps, your chest, and your lats and you can periodize it. So get them really freaking strong, and then use the same principles to increase your rate of force development, all right? And that's how you're gonna dunk the ball harder. And then the law of specificity. You gotta use a ton of intent and just try dunking harder a lot, and you're gonna get better at it as well, okay? And then the final thing is, I completely forgot what I was about to say. If I think of it, I'll let you guys know. Oh, you gotta be, the more room you have over the rim, the harder you're gonna be able to dunk. Because if you only have your hand 4 inches above the rim, you only have this much room to work with. You can generate all the force here, but then you can't really tap into using your chest and your lats much. It all comes down to shoulder, right? Your shoulder is the main thing that's gonna be driving this up, your upper back here. But the more room you have above the rim, so let's say you can get your elbow above the rim, now you have 1.5 feet of room to be able to put your arm downwards and generate force with your lats and your chest. So that's the other thing, is jump higher, and you'll be able to use more of the potential you have to dunk harder. All right, what do I think of Ja Morant having done 500 tire jumps a day when he was younger? I think that gave him a lot of jump practice, all right? Law of specificity. He learned how to load his tendons up through repetition, and that is going to be really beneficial for jumping higher. I think having him do max approach jumps probably would have been more effective than that. But he was probably already jumping a lot just from playing basketball as well. So it followed the law of specificity, and it definitely helped him out. One thing that all elite athletes, elite jumpers have in common is that they took a ton of jumps when they were growing up. So definitely helped them out. Do I recommend it? No. One, because you'll most likely get hurt. And two, again, you're better off doing 500 max approach jumps a day. If you're an athlete that can handle it, which is probably only 0.0001% of the population out there, again, Ja Morant is a genetically gifted athlete just from his injury resilience, as you can tell from him being able to handle that when he was younger, and then the way he can sustain jumping for long periods, the type of jumps he does in games every single day and in practices every single day. But even then, Ja Morant is prone to injuries. I believe he had right knee tendinopathy a couple years ago during the playoffs. But again, if you can survive it, it will help. But just be more specific with it. As a young athlete, you don't really need to be doing those type of plyos. You will thank me if you practice max approach jumping as much as possible. Why did you do EMOMs during your hypertrophy cycle? If you don't know what an EMOM is, it stands for every minute on the minute. So we'll take squatting. Let's say you're doing 5 squats. And let's say you're doing 10 sets of EMOMs. You would do 5 squats when the timer hits 0. And then let's say that takes you 20 seconds. Then you use the rest of the 40 seconds to rest. And then you do the next set as soon as it hits 1 minute. Get through that set in whatever time it takes you. And the faster you can get through the 5 reps, the more time you will have to rest. The longer it takes, the less rest you will have. We implement EMOMs for a few different reasons. During the hypertrophy cycle, it was just a logistics reason. The workouts were taking a really long time, and we suggest doing EMOMs along with supersetting if you want to get through a workout faster. A lot of athletes complain, like at THP, one of the biggest complaints is that the workouts take too long, and that's one of the things that we suggest is superset and do EMOMs. And that can easily half the time. You might get through a 2-hour workout in 45 minutes if you superset exercises and do EMOMs. And then from just a scientific perspective, they've done research on it, and just anecdotally as well, your intent is gonna go way up if you do EMOMs. You're gonna have more adrenaline. It's gonna force you to perform, and you can access a lot more intent doing that. So it can kind of be like a supercharger on the workout. If you're kind of just drudging along, you're super fatigued, doing EMOM, it's gonna force you to perform. So a lot of benefits from doing them. How do I balance lifting heavy weights and lifting light weights quickly for explosiveness? I touched on this earlier. You got to combine the 2 pieces of advice I gave. Do the explosive movements earlier in the workout, and the heavier strength training movements later in the workout. Make sure you do compound lifts, things that require multiple muscle groups earlier as well. single joint exercises, you want to do them later on. And then as far as how to periodize them, just have periods of time in the year where you're doing more power work, less max strength work, and then other periods in the year where you're doing more max strength work or hypertrophy work, and then less power work. With your program, how long will it take to dunk starting at 5'4" with no balance? I wanted to touch on this question because it'll be good to answer just a general question for any athlete. How long is it going to take to achieve X result? The answer is, I don't know. And you're never going to know. And there's only one way to find out, and it's to train. And as far as what your potential is, that's the other thing is you don't know. You might not jump high now, but maybe you respond super well to training, right? You might be genetically gifted in that way. Genetics set your ceiling. Training is the only way to know what that ceiling is and get as close to it as possible. And then the other way to only truly know is to train for a long ass time. I'm gonna answer the other question that I have here because it coincides with this. How long have I been training for? I get asked all the time, how long did it take to get my bounce? I've been training for 10 plus years at this point with good training. And it takes a long time to see good results, and anything in life takes a long time. I know an athlete is not gonna be successful depending on what time frame they're working with. If an athlete asks me, how long do you think I'm gonna jump, how high do you think I'll jump in 10 years? I know they're gonna be successful. If an athlete comes to me and asks me, hey, where do you think I'll be at in 1 month or in 3 months, in 6 months, even a year, I know they're not gonna succeed instantly, I know. That's why when it comes to like training in person, a lot of athletes or parents will come up to me and be like, hey, like I'm trying to get my son or daughter ready by the end of the summer for whatever season. I'm not gonna work with them because I know they have a short-term mindset. I like working with athletes that are in it for the long haul, that are gonna put in 10 plus years of training. Those are the time frames I like working with, 10 years. With my personal training, I am focused on just seeing how long I can do this for, all right? The objective of the game is to keep playing the game. You don't win at jump training. So that's the only time I see success with at least the strength and conditioning aspect of basketball and jumping is it has to be long-term or else you're not gonna see success. When an injury pops up, you're not gonna have the discipline to stick with it. So long-term mindset, you're asking the wrong questions there. A better question to ask yourself is, what can I do to allow myself to stay disciplined enough for years and years on end and stick with it? And then you will achieve literally any goal you have with anything in life. What I'm talking to you right here doesn't just apply for jump training. It applies to anything you want to achieve in life, whether it be business, school, goals, relationships, right? Romantic relationships or friendships, family bonds, physical goals, mental goals, learning, all that stuff, that applies. You have to have a long-term mindset. So hopefully that helped out. I don't have any motivation to work out. What should I do? I have answered this multiple times, but there is one thing that will help way more than I ever could. I want you to get a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear and read it, and it will change your perspective on everything. As far as with working out for athletes that have low motivation and don't have the habit, it's just form the habit at first. When you have a habit, you stop relying on motivation and you keep working out and you're able to sustain that for a long period of time. Motivation ebbs and flows. So my rule for forming a habit, do something for 21 days straight and you only have to spend 2 minutes a day doing it. So you can even take squatting and push-ups, right? This is how you form, because if you don't have the habit, it doesn't matter how good your training is, you're not gonna get results from it. To get in the habit of working out, do 10 squats and 10 push-ups for 21 days in a row at the same time every single day. To make it even better, go to a location like a gym and do that, because that's gonna form the habit. After 21 days, it's easy to add more complex training. But make it simple and fun to the point where you will sustain the habit. And then eventually you get used to it and you can make the training as hard as you want. After that, you're gonna maintain that habit. So make it fun, make it easy, make it short, Do it for 21 days in a row, including the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. That way you form that habit, and then it's smooth sailing from there. After that, you can do you can do literally anything. So that should be a good spot for you to start at. What are the best shoes for jumping? My personal favorite are Kobe 6s, but they are very expensive. Other shoes that just come to mind are Way of Wade's. Those are probably my favorite shoes that are more budget friendly. I like Jordan 36s. Those are kind of the only shoes in recent history that I've jumped with. All the other ones are shoes that I jumped in years ago, but those are kind of like the more modern ones that I like, except the Kobe 6, but that's literally my favorite shoe by far that I've ever jumped in. And then last question, what are the best stretches for jumping higher? First, you need to see what positions you need to be able to hit in your sport and training, and then do the stretches that are going to allow you to reach those positions. If you already have the flexibility needed for it, I wouldn't stretch, because your training, your jumping and lifting is going to maintain your flexibility levels. If you don't have the mobility, I would also stretch with one caveat, which is don't stretch through pinching sensations, or else you will get messed up. Trust me. Having said that, my favorite stretches are couch stretch, any bent knee ankle stretch, and then those are basically the two that are most important to reach the positions needed to squat deep enough to get good transfer to your jumping, and then also to have good mobility on your penultimate step and how low you get on your jump. I used to do those 2 minutes a day, every single day, until I was flexible enough to train and jump. And then aside from that, I don't do any other stretching. I maintain hamstring flexibility from doing RDLs with good technique and pulling from the floor with good technique. If you don't have good hamstring flexibility, I would just work on hinging with a neutral spine, and do that every single day. Hold that bottom position, especially with weight, and you will go really, really far. And then as far as like groin stretches and hip mobility and that type of thing, I'm very careful with that. I have found stretching the hips to cause more harm in athletes than good. As far as that, just stretch it very light, avoid pinching sensations. You can do butterfly stretches, these type of glute stretches, anything where the leg is externally rotated and then you drive your heel up. But again, don't work through pain on those. Just very light stretching sensation. Those ones I like to just hold for 30 seconds. But that's my take on flexibility. That's it for the video. Again, make sure to like the video, and then if you're on a podcast platform, give it 5 stars and leave a comment below. I like to get to as many of them as I can and kind of start some interesting discussions in there. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Catch you guys tomorrow.